Thank you very much, Chair. I cannot agree more with your mission letter and the need to ensure that Europe's competition policy and rules are fit to the digital age. We see astonishing developments in artificial intelligence and Internet of Things. We are fighting for very high-capacity networks and 5G deployments. And I must say that the EU, through competition law, has done a lot regarding access to physical infrastructure. But, however, we have digital infrastructure, such as app stores, digital wallets for payments, or search engines. And in some cases, all this infrastructure has become unintended critical gateways that are creating a number of barriers to compete, innovate, or reach customers. And my question is, in those cases, what will you do to eliminate the new bottlenecks, such as inflexible terms for access, limited access to operating system functionalities, or access to user transaction data? Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Vestager.
Europa ser jo meget. I think in connected when you look at the general numbers. But I think sometimes if you live in the countryside, you feel, no, it's not working. So there's also a digital divide that we'll have to close, to keep investing also outside of areas where there is a thorough business idea. So it's just to say that we have also sometimes in our physical infrastructure a gatekeeping that I think is felt very present for a number of people. When it comes to the gatekeeping as such, the legislation platform to business is going to be coming into effect quite shortly, I think by summer next year. And that will allow you as a business, depending on a platform, to know, to have transparency as to how am I ranked, and if I'm not to be found anymore, why is that? And also to have access to a dispute-solving mechanism, that you can go somewhere and say, it doesn't work anymore. What do I do to make it work? That was made in a very prudent way, not so to overshoot the regulation, but at the same time was created an observatory so that if need be, that we can increase these obligations. Because the gatekeepers, when you own the market, if they don't apply sort of privately set rules of fair competition, then obviously we have an issue. And as said, in a number of the competition cases, we have seen that when you de facto own a market, the rule you set is not, I will ensure fair competition, it is my own products first. And this is why we have to keep focusing on what happens if you have a dominant company in these very fast-moving markets.
A follow-up question.
I insisted for digital infrastructure, which is another dimension to be tackled compared to physical infrastructure. Anyway, in a context where Europe's competitiveness is subject to intense international competition, and European industrial agenda, ambitious, with visible targets, concrete figures, dates, and specific actions, we have done for digital and climate policy. On the other hand, taking into account that what in Europe is perceived as big might be of a modest side international perspective, international marketplace, my question is, if you are to implement a strong industrial policy, do you foresee a need to adapt on how Europe's competition policy or rules?
Thank you. Madam Vestager.
One specific example as to how we are using rules now is the work that we do with member states to create these important projects of common European interest. We have one already on microelectronics with, I think, 5 member states and 40 different businesses that come together in a structure to develop next generation of microelectronics, which will serve us very well, actually also in climate change, because these new chips, they will use less energy than the ones we have. It will then allow for knowledge to be distributed, and it will unlock private investments about for €1 invested by a member state, 2 to 3 euros will be invested by a private company. And so far we have learned a lot that we don't have to change these rules, but can apply them in practice in a more flexible way. The Battery Alliance is another example of that. And here we focus not on specific sectors, not on that industry or that industry, but on areas where we find that there has been a market error and where the full value chain can come into effect. And that, I think, is a very good example of a competitive-based industrial strategy.